All right, everybody, welcome back to the Manufacturing Alliance Chat and Chow. As always, I'm your host, Tony DeMakis with Alliance Specialties in Laser Sales, where we do everything that you need for mold maintenance. So that's mold finishing, polishing, laser welding, laser engraving, hot runner manifold cleaning, preventative maintenance. And we also have a full line of laser welding and engraving machines that we make here in the United States in Prairie Grove, Illinois. So that's my quick elevator speech. That's not what you're here for, so that's fine. I'm excited to be back talking with you guys during this lunchtime. And today I've got a friend of mine named Jeff Taylor on the line on the video, and we're going to be talking about all kinds of things. And Jeff is from Crafts Technology, so I'm just going to bring him in because he's a busy guy. I'm sure he's got a ton of things to do, and we're going to jump into this conversation. How are you, buddy? Oh wait, I got to unmute you. There you go.
I got it. I'm doing great. How are you?
Yeah. I'm good. I'm glad. I mean, I think I'm glad to be back at work today. I mean, the weekend was a little bit quicker than I would hope it would be. It was full. It was a full weekend. I'd played some golf with a customer on Saturday. It wasn't good. You got to play more than twice a year to be decent at all. So we had fun, you know. It was a good time.
Good. I went furniture shopping.
You went furniture shopping. I'll take golf.
Well, yeah. Well, I need the furniture, I guess. I'm moving to Elk Grove Village.
Okay.
New place.
When are you doing that?
Like another month. Gonna close.
Okay.
That was my weekend.
You.
Yeah. So, chat and chow. I'm good at the chat. Where's the chow?
You know, that's one of those things where I don't eat while I'm doing these because it just turns out that all you do is hear people chewing and chomping, and it doesn't work out.
It's a bring your own chow event, I guess. All right.
So, I mean, you got some awesome things going on. First, let's tell people what Crafts Technology is, huh?
Okay, so Crafts Technology, it's the oldest continuously operating company of its kind in the United States, and that is 127 years old. 127 years ago, the company started setting natural diamond because there was no synthetic diamond. There was no tungsten carbide in the late 1800s. And so they started setting natural diamonds into cutting tools and things like that, wear parts, dies, and stuff like that. So the company has been in that space in one way or another for 127 years. So now we do a lot of.
So you guys are.
What's that?
You guys, I'm sorry. You guys are building the diamond cutter tools and things like that?
Well, we do very, kind of unique tools. We don't build things like progressive dies and big complex things. Like we'll do single cutting tools, braze carbide on it or braze diamond into it, things like that. And also specialty nozzles and wear parts that utilize diamond for extra long wear life.
Nice.
Yeah.
And how's that going?
It's going great. We do, in the pandemic, we've gotten a lot of business with the medical companies too. We do a lot of the injection mold tooling using tungsten carbide. So almost our hands have been in almost all of the COVID-19 test kits that have been produced by companies in the United States. So very busy.
I remember I saw you out in California at the AMBA meeting out there. That was a pleasant surprise.
Yeah, that's of course injection molding. Yeah, we were out there mostly because in Southern California, there's a good grouping of medical molders out there.
There are,
but medical especially.
Yep, and that's our bread and butter too. Just on the other side of it, right? You need them before they do the cutting. We need them after.
Well, on medical molding, we do no cutting. We mold the core pins, or rather, we produce the core pins for like an injection molding, syringe barrels or blood tubes, pipettes, things like that. So we do the male core, we do the inside of the plastic part.
Yep. I gotta start doing some polishing for you guys.
We do it all ourselves. Sorry to tell you.
You don't want to do that. It's a headache. You don't want to do that yourself.
It's carbide though, tungsten carbide. That's a little different, obviously, than a lot of the steels. But
yeah. So how did you get involved in this company?
I worked for well, first of all, the company is 100% owned by the employees. So day one for me is I was brought into the company so that I would take over ultimately as CEO from the day one, was groomed into the role because the principals that owned the company wanted to retire. So they
Okay.
sold the company to the employees. So I was kind of brought in as the kind of to take over as CEO.
Nice. And what were you doing before that?
I worked for another company for about 20 years. They're a big pump, seal, mixer, mechanical seals, gaskets, fluid sealing, fluid handling product company.
Yep.
Another 140-year-old privately held company. They were, I don't know, $350 million a year. And they would send me all over the country, all over the world, doing specialty applications for engineered solutions and stuff. So that was fun.
So you're the guy that people bring in to get into new ideas, get rid of the old dinosaur ideas about how things have been done for 100 and plus years.
That is exactly what I like to do. I
Yeah.
am definitely have been that's been the centerpiece of my career success, being able to reinvent things and kind of break into new markets. As a matter of fact, I like to think of Crash Technology as the oldest startup you've ever seen.
Why is it the oldest startup?
Well, because it's like we're acting like we're a startup. We really reinvigorated the company. We doubled its size in 5 or so years,
Yep.
and really just that was since we bought it as an employee-owned company, and we're just really I think we're doing a bang-up job getting into new markets and really having a more progressive approach to scaling up using lean manufacturing techniques and stuff like that. CNC. We really had practically no CNC grinding before I came here, so
Okay.
we really kicked it up everywhere.
So you said the thing that I think is so interesting, which is the employee owned. Like when you guys took it over, you bought it as an employee owned company. What does that look like? I mean, even from the ground up, right? I mean, how do the employees get together and decide that they want to buy the company?
Well, the employees don't get together per se. Basically, the principal, somebody who owns a business, first they have to decide, do they want to sell it to the employees under this vehicle that you would call an ESOP, an employee stock ownership plan. So
Okay.
once they decide they want to sell it to the employees, they create this kind of shell. It's imagine, just for lack of a better way of saying it, it's like forming a 401k, and the only company that they're going to own is the company that you're going to sell to the employees.
Okay.
So employees earn shares in that kind of what looks like a 401k. They get so many shares every year. So you basically do an IPO. In our case, we issued 100,000 shares in the IPO, but then you amortize the distribution of the shares, just for the lack of a better way of saying, 4,000 shares a year for 25 years. So, it's commensurate. You earn each one of those 4,000 shares that are distributed every year. An employee will earn that percentage of those shares commensurate with their pay. So if you make $10 an hour and the other guy makes $20 an hour, that guy that makes $20 an hour gets twice as many shares. So it's
Okay.
commensurate with pay.
All right. And how have you found that to energize the team?
Well, it's funny. I write, talk, read about that this energizes teams a lot.
Yeah.
It definitely does. But the thing that it does more than all of that, it basically injects everyday employee into the wealth appreciation game. Whether they do it wittingly or unwittingly, it's, they're basically getting shares of a company. Any company, if, you would go to work for any company, if they would just give you some shares of the company, some options or something, whether or not you chose to work there to earn the shares or not, you might have just signed on for the job to pay your rent and this and that. But, if you're there for 3-5 years and the company goes from being worth $10 million to $20 million, it's unbelievable what starts happening along the way when I'm showing everybody their certificates and what they're worth. It's like watching the stock market and watch your shares go up and up and
Yeah.
up. And they look at it and they go, is that real? Is that paper money? Is that real money? Or can I cash that in? Or what does that mean? It's like this whole thing of stocks is very elusive for the everyday American to really get their head around and understand how powerful a vehicle that is to wealth appreciation, to retiring,
Yeah.
health, having wealth.
And to be honest with you, I don't own stock. I don't own many stocks, right? I have 401k. I got stuff that was passed down from my grandfather, things like that, but I don't understand it. And I'm okay saying that. I don't understand it because it seems like it's play money, that it fluctuates up and down at the whim of somebody, and I just don't get it. And I think it would make more sense in a one business situation. But I also know that just because a company made more money doesn't mean there's more money.
Just because they made more money doesn't mean what?
That there's more money.
Oh,
It doesn't mean it's there, right? So, you could put in a new garage, you could put in a new floor, you could put in all these things because the money came in. And, a lot of that gets missed by employees and the team around you because they just think, I'm working every day. I'm putting in my hours. I see that the company is profitable based on the numbers you're telling us. Where's the money? Do you guys go over that with the employees as an ESOP and say, listen, we have to buy these things. We have to make these improvements. We have to do this stuff.
Yes, every month since the day I've been here, we basically go over the financials, gross profit, operating profit, net income, operating income rather. And we also talk more than ever about EBITDA because, just in case somebody's watching by some chance, maybe many know what EBITDA is, but earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. So basically, once you understand that acronym EBITDA, basically any business, anybody goes out to buy, first thing I would walk in and I would say, what's your EBITDA? I wouldn't care what you got for a building. I don't care what you got. I don't care about anything. Just tell me what your EBITDA is first. And once you tell me what your EBITDA is first, just in general, that's the launching pad for basically the whole idea of buying a business.
Okay.
You have to know what they're making for earnings before all those debt and depreciation, all those things.
Yeah. So then the employees get it. Do they understand it more? Do they see where that money is going into the business?
Yeah, I think the word you said that's very specific is they understand it more, right? So I look at the financials daily, weekly, monthly, all the time. I'm always buried in them some way or another. So, I know them pretty fluidly, but so then just to say I'm telling them once a month doesn't mean that they can, run through a balance sheet and all that, and then that they understand the whole equation, but they understand the basic tenets of what I'm talking about. And ever more so when we talk about EBITDA and share price, and they keep getting that. It's all about the profit that you make that makes the business valuable.
Yeah. So what happens if, and I'm just fascinated with this whole topic. What happens if somebody leaves the company? Do they keep those shares? Do they have to sell them back?
Well, I could answer you narrowly for crafts, but it's generally true for most ESOPs. Let's just say you left, you were there for some number of years, say your shares are worth $100,000. Basically, we're obligated to buy those shares back from you, and we'd buy them back in 20% increments for each of the successive 5 years. So we'd give you $20,000 a year for each of 5 years after you left.
Okay.
Pretty
That's not so bad.
No, you don't want to give them everything at once because then it drains the company of cash too readily. If like you have a group of people retire, then the company has to borrow money.
Yeah, that was my concern there.
Yeah, it's a pretty good arrangement with an ESOP to be able to pay employees out. By the way, there are ESOPs you can elect to pay somebody in whole too if they don't have too much. If they were only there for a year or so, you might just pay them a lump sum. So you do have some flexibility in that too.
So can an employee get paid out on that? So they don't want the shares anymore.
There's really only 3 ways that you can convert the value of your shares in an ESOP to cash. One is you retire, right? So you reach retirement age, then we buy back your shares, and then you get paid out as long as you're over 65. You get paid out 20% a year for 5 years. However, if you're not retirement age, you get paid out, but you can't exercise that money until you're 65. Another way,
Okay.
if the company was sold, say the company was sold tomorrow, then everybody gets paid out. You know what I mean? So so that's one of three ways. One, it goes into a fund if you're not retired. The second way is you get the money if you are retired, and the third way is if you the company is sold, then it's
Okay.
liquidated and everybody gets their money accelerated.
I think a misconception, I know it's one that I've had, is when you say employee owned, there's still ownership to craft technology. Yes.
Yeah, well, employee owned is, imagine the best way I can liken it to, and this isn't exact, but again, unless we have some hours there, I can go on to a dissertation about ESOPs, basically like a public company.
Okay.
So, you issue all those shares and then an executive team runs the company. I mean, if you're a shareholder in GE, you don't have like voting rights and stuff like
Right.
that.
Right.
So the employees, it's the same way. Basically, the employees don't run the company per se. Although, there's some notion that there are veto sort of powers. They can influence. You can get an activist shareholder inside General Electric that, if they acquire enough shares, they can kind of really wrestle or tussle with the executive team and stuff like that, bankers,
Sure.
investors, all that. And so it's similar. It's just like a public company, for lack of a better way of saying it. Executive team runs a company. One major difference, though, is truly the shares, every share is actually owned by the trustee. So imagine you put a house into a trust fund.
Yep.
It's basically like that. All the shares are in a trust. Nobody actually gets handed a share. You get what we call shares, but they're a right to certain value, which is basically what a share is, but it's just slightly a nuanced difference. It's you're not handed it, because you can't be handed it, because then you could try and go sell it on the open market, which you can't do.
Right. Which we don't want.
Right.
You'd have people coming in saying, "Oh, we're changing everything about the business. We don't want you to do this anymore."
Exactly. And it would give people outside the company an opportunity to enjoy in that wealth appreciation. But the fact of the matter is the ESOP was designed originally specifically to give the employees that are working there and creating that wealth, they're connecting them directly to that wealth appreciation.
Okay. So this is not something that pays out quarterly or
No.
yearly. This is, you're invested in the long run. This is another retirement plan.
Yeah, I like to think it's like a 401k, and basically think of all the rules on a 401k,
Yeah.
more or less.
No, I agree. I think, see, that makes way more sense to me when you put it that way. And I guess the hope is that money's there, that it's in the bank account when they want it.
Yeah, and an ESOP can go bankrupt just like any other business. There's nothing that stops them. They're beholden to the market forces, no different or poor management than anything else. But there are some little rules in there that if you've been in the ESOP long enough, you can divest your shares. You can direct them towards other, equities and stuff. There are things to help, kind of neutralize your risk as you get older, or you've been in an ESOP for a while. There are ways to do that too.
Yeah, I know we've had like one employee that mentioned this before, and I'm not versed well enough in it. I got to spend more time with you so that I can learn all the ins and outs of it. But it's a fascinating idea, and I think we've tried being a little bit more transparent with people and going and talking to them about financials. We put up a number inside the shop that says we need to hit this number every month. This is not a profitable number. This is what it costs us to do business number. And when people see those numbers, it can be shocking. They don't realize all the things that go into running and managing a business as far as cost and everything else. They know what they make, and they know what our hourly rate is, and that's what they know. And so they just kind of fill in the gaps as they think they are, instead of what reality would say, right?
Yeah, but one particular thing happens when employees all own a company is because there's no flight of capital. Let's say you and I owned here this business, Crafts Technology.
Yeah.
You and I own it. Say we bought it for $10 million and now it's worth 20 or $30 million. Basically you and I, if we bought it for 10 million and we made 20 million, you would get 10 million and I would get 10 million.
Yeah.
That'd be great, right? But the employees, and we could sell out anytime. We can borrow on the value of our equity. We can do all kinds of things. But in an ESOP, you can't really do any of that. So basically, all the money that the company earns stays in the company. There's no principles to draw it out and get myself a bigger house and this and that. I can't do any of that. So basically, all that net income gets plowed back into the company.
Okay.
Nobody to take that money. But that's one thing, no flight of capital. And the second thing is, people, if labor force wants to lobby for more money, and so they take from one pocket and move it to the other pocket, there's no external pockets.
Right.
You're taking from yourself, from your own pair of pants. You're taking that money and putting it in the other pocket. And by the way, the minute you do that, you lower your EBITDA. So your share value goes down. So if labor wants to outsize their efforts to increase their pay, that's great. The cost of labor goes way up, EBITDA goes down, share price goes down. Where'd you win? In other words, see, there's no outside force, no flight of capital, no principles to take advantage of you, so to speak, or to earn an outsized share of wealth appreciation. Basically, it's all right in the building, and we're all in it together in exactly the same way. There's no external forces.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's
it
really
changes that paradigm of negotiating for wages. And then also they think about, I say, well, they say, why you buy that machine? That machine is too expensive. Well, that machine is going to increase your productivity. And if productivity goes up, EBITDA should go up too. So, okay, yeah, let's get two of those.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like, and by the way, when we get those two machines, our asset value goes up, our assets go up on our balance sheet. And if that machine is more efficient, our EBITDA increases. Mm-hmm. That's a win-win. And they become investors. They become, even if they're not embedded in it like me, they start thinking about, yeah, we need more of those machines. We need more of those machines to do this faster.
Right.
So my share price can go up.
Right.
Not just holistically. Oh, yeah, it's faster. Faster what? Yep. So I lose overtime? Yay.
Yeah, that hurts me.
What's that?
So when you guys when Crafts went from, because it wasn't always an ESOP, right?
It was not.
So when it went from not being an ESOP to being an ESOP, and you guys started doing that, how do those shares get paid for originally, or are they just given based on years of service and an overall number of what the company is worth, or at least how did Crafts do it?
All right. So at the beginning of an ESOP, the very first year, remember what I was saying about that amortization schedule? So basically 4,000 shares a year get distributed every year.
Yeah.
So watch this. Let's just say, I'm going to just pick a round number. Let's just say I was earning 10%. Say my pay was 10% of payroll. Okay. So I would earn 10% of the 4,000 shares. I would earn 400 shares my first year here. If somebody else was half my pay, they would have, 200 shares.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like if they were 5% of payroll. So if you follow, there's no shares at day one, no shares are given to anybody. It's basically at the end of the first calendar year, you begin that distribution of the number of shares that are being released for that year.
Okay. So, does Crafts also have a separate 401k, or is this the 401k?
Yes, but it's funny because there's some statistics out there. I don't have them with me, but in general, people who work in ESOPs tend to have generally lower 401k valuation, value in there, because they're really, in large part, they're really leaning into the ESOP shares to be that retirement fund.
Sure.
So, but we do have it still. So people still have a vehicle to save tax-free if they want to grow.
Yeah. It's interesting. And I think you're a huge proponent of it. I mean, I remember the first time I met you was at that crazy TMA dinner. with Nicole, where I had no idea what I was getting myself into.
That was good, but I think you probably gathered that real quick because I am passionate about it, of not just ESOPs, just in general. I think this is a statistic that I mentioned to you before. As I said, the top 10% of Americans, top 10% own 80% of the stock or equity wealth in the United States. That wealth,
Yeah.
500 stock market has quadrupled since March of 09. That was a low point, but it's quadrupled. And a lot of, even through this pandemic, if you're not in stocks, look at the stock market is back up to its pre-pandemic highs. You know what I mean? And if you're not invested in that stock market, you're being left out of the greatest wealth creation in the United States that you could ever imagine. So people have to, I cannot now go forward, and I would not really want to work in a company where I couldn't earn either stock rights or some sort of equity in an ESOP. But you don't even have to be in an ESOP. Somebody just can give you stock options in a company. There are some big companies out there that give, rank and file employees stock options and stuff. That is the way I really believe. If you want to fix the socioeconomic conditions in the United States or anywhere globally, I consider myself very well read, and that one is glaring. People have to get intertwined, invested in equities, period. Nothing else will solve it. Nothing, taxation, nothing. It's not nothing even, it all pales in comparison.
So how big of a company would you suggest to look at something like an ESOP? I mean, when you're talking about annual revenues, right? At what point does it make sense to look at that as an option?
I'm going to give you a number. As you can well imagine, there are people that do this all day, convert companies to ESOPs, but I'll tell you my general impression is I think if you're under $3 million a year, because the transaction cost of converting to an ESOP can run, these are just loose numbers. Again, I don't do this. $50, $75, or $100,000 to convert to an ESOP, which, if you're a $7 million or $10 million, $5, $6, $7, $8, $10 million company, converting that cost, that's not inordinate.
Sure.
So under 3 million, I think it just gets harder. Not impossible, but harder.
Yeah. Do you think it gets harder with a smaller number of employees or a higher number of employees?
I would venture to guess it's, similar trials and tribulations, whether it's small or large.
Yeah.
There are companies like Procter & Gamble, W.L. Gore, like Gore-Tex, they're 100% employee owned. Procter & Gamble, I think most of their shares and deposited into their accounts for their employees. I think they're like, I'm probably wrong on this number, but it's like 30% ESOP or something. So there's a lot. Who's that? Who's the supermarket out here in our area? Not Majors, not
Caputo's?
Not Caputo's.
I think I know what you're talking about. It's a big one, right?
Yeah, and they're 100% employee owned.
Okay.
I don't shop there only because I'm not near one, but I would like to shop there. It would make sense. But I can't remember.
Yeah.
Sorry, I can't. But employee stock ownership plans, they're everywhere. Most people, often they just don't realize that they're
That's good. How's business been for you guys?
I would say, bookings were up for most of the year. We had some kind of pandemic woes, just kind of dealing with, protocols and, somebody was sick on the shop floor and, things like that. That was hard moving through those, the anxiety and the stresses of working through the pandemic and this new paradigm of masks and everything. It's been hard, but in general, I would say we have been extremely resilient. And again, bookings are probably up really. So it's pretty exciting.
Yeah. I think, for what the situation is in the world, we're doing okay. I wouldn't say we're breaking any records, but we're not breaking any records on the low end either. So we're doing okay. It could be better. I think we're all struggling day by day and trying to figure out the next new normal kind of thing. You mentioned, did you have people sick at the facility? Did
Yeah,
you have to
one
deal with
time,
COVID issues? Yeah,
yes. Yep.
we were in the same boat. That mini panic freak out moment. And,
Right.
I know for us when it happened, we handled it the way that we should, but there was that moment where people were afraid to come back into work, and they didn't know what to expect. And, I kept trying to reiterate, like, listen, anytime you go somewhere, you have a chance of getting sick at this point, right? So if we close the shop for 10 days or 2 weeks or whatever would make you more comfortable, are you telling me you're not going anywhere? You're going to stay home for 2 weeks and do nothing? Because if you go anywhere else and we open back up and you bring something back in and we got to close for another 2 weeks, then what?
I know. Well, although nowadays, I think the number one thing in businesses that I see that we certainly are doing is you do not want employee to employee transmission, right? So if
Correct.
one person comes
Correct.
in and has it and is tested positive, and if nobody else gets it from there,
Yeah.
that means that employee brought it in, and that
Yeah.
means that you as an employer did your job, that you had everybody was 6 feet, mask, cleaning,
Yep.
deep cleaning, you did everything right to stop employee to employee transmission.
Yep.
So that's, I think, your job, our job, my job, and anybody who's in business is you can't solve the pandemic
Correct.
who's outside of your building, but in your building. And by the way, as you probably well know, is the governor and the politicians now passed that it's a
Yes.
Class A misdemeanor. I know they geared that towards retail, but they can use that in the industrial facilities.
Yeah. And honestly, we were not masking here for the longest time because, all of our benches are more than 6 feet apart. All the guys in polishing, we have 8 polishers here. They all have their own bench, their own setup, their own place. The only thing that's shared is the time clock and, cutting stones, right? Uh, the hot runner guys, they generally work on stuff separately. All the laser welders and engravers have their own equipment. Everybody was separated well. So we did not have a mask. Our mask policy was, if you feel comfortable wearing a mask, go ahead and wear a mask. But we're not going to require it. But then we saw that thing from the governor, and I thought, I don't want to get dinged for $2,500 for something stupid, you know.
Yeah.
And so now we've made it where if you leave your area, you have to put a mask on, whether it's going to the bathroom or cut stones or whatever that is. But you talk to different people and they go, they can't legally do that. You should fight it. But yeah, okay. Then I got to get a lawyer. Then I got to, it's just, I don't want to say it's easier to comply because I hate what that insinuates, but
Yep.
I just don't want to, I don't want to fight that battle.
No, me neither. We developed our protocols early on and we follow them diligently. There's a lot of potential liability that's going to be out there. And if your protocols and if you're enforcing those protocols are not in place, I'll tell you, this is like asbestos litigation or something. It's going to become like just a whole field of litigation. And your only way to potentially mitigate it is to follow protocols that are all recommended by CDC and
Yeah.
Illinois and everything else. And we're pretty strict.
Yeah. I think that's the hardest part for me is the protocols vary from thing to thing, to place, to town. And there's no, the consistency isn't there. Right. From what I've seen, maybe you've seen something different, but consistencies are inconsistent, I would say.
Yeah, in all the places you go to different places. I was in a place recently and people right here in Illinois, and most of the Illinois businesses seem to be not as wild-eyed as maybe some other places. Wisconsin is accused of being, just very liberal with the mask. But I go in and out of this restaurant just recently, and then it's like all of a sudden I noticed everybody was coming in and out, and nobody was enforcing the mask wearing. And it's like, but I don't really, personally, I really don't care. All I care about is in here.
Yeah.
And if I want to wear a mask when I go someplace, I'll wear a mask. But
Yes.
I don't. I can control me, and I can control the shop floor, and I stick to those two things, and that's it.
So here's the problem with doing things live. So we got a message on YouTube. It's the person's name is Good Looking Honky. And it says, Tony, hi, Peter North here, old adult film star. Question, should I invest in outdoor dining? Thanks, Peter.
I think you must have some friends that love punking on you.
Listen, I'm just gonna let that go. We don't have to go there. It just made me laugh. You know, the things that come through. You know, that's
Somebody's bored. Why Peter North would be watching us? I don't know.
Yeah, maybe you go from one extreme to the other. I don't know, but yeah, I agree with you. You know, my son and I went to Home Depot this weekend. I built him a desk because it's e-learning time, so had to build him a desk and get all that stuff, and they require a mask to go in there, so I put a mask on. It's not my store, right? It's theirs. So if they require something of me and I want to shop there, I got to follow their rules. I don't have any right to tell them what I can and can't do. I have the freedom to choose whether or not I want to wear a mask, right? But I also have the freedom to choose whether or not I'm going to shop there. And they have the freedom to tell me they don't want me to shop there if I don't want to follow their rules. And I think that's fine and fair.
However, that paradigm changed when they could get a Class A misdemeanor. Now they're saying they can't let you in the store without a mask because if you happen to be working for state of Illinois and you're coming in there to just kind of see, you could get them in trouble. Like employees, they have a hotline number right on their sheet that you're supposed to post. Call this number and report. You will have a Class A misdemeanor if you're one of those businesses pretty quick.
And that's my point, right? You can. There are plenty of individuals that are set in their ways and they think it's a total obstruction of their freedom and everything else. And my statement to them is stay home. You can control what you do in your house, but you can't control what you do in my building. That's up to me to decide what I want to do. And I don't want to have that misdemeanor. So you got to follow my rules. And if you don't like it, shop somewhere else. That's
it.
That's up to you.
Although it was before they did the Class A misdemeanor, which I didn't think that was very cool, but I did understand it. It did basically start getting retailers and restaurants. I mean, they're stuck now. I mean, they're risking, like I said, getting that misdemeanor. That's not a good thing to get. I think it's a Class A misdemeanor.
It's up to $2,500 from what I heard.
Yeah, that's a problem. Just it opens litigation too.
For sure. I don't want to deal with that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy. And I think, what you were saying, like going out to eat, there's certain things that to me just don't make sense. You get it from the door to the table and then you're done and then you can eat and you can do all that stuff. And I don't know.
Hey, you want to hear something funny circling back around on this subject to employee-owned companies? Guess what?
Oh.
Now, if I have a visitor come in, people are like, did they answer the questionnaire? Did they take their temperature? Did you get their temperature? Like, because now the employees want to protect the value of their shares.
Yeah. So now they're holding you accountable.
Self-policing and holding me. I was the last employee meeting. I was like, somebody stood up. Did you have that person? Did they get their temperature? When you come in, you get a badge. You have to answer the COVID questionnaire, 14 days, you weren't, no fever and all that stuff. And then when you come in, you got to take your temperature on your wrist. And then when you take that temperature, you put a green dot on your badge. And the green dot, when the person's walking around, that means every employee, they look at the visitor. Do they have a green dot on their badge? They better have taken. And it's like everybody polices everybody. It's funny. They're protecting their value.
Yeah. And that makes total sense to me.
Yeah.
That makes 100% total sense to me because, and that's what you want as a team, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's where the greatest teams are successful is when everybody's rowing in the same direction with the same goals, same, destination. They know that if we get hit with a virus or a fee or whatever, that's coming out of my pocket, even if I didn't do anything wrong.
That's correct. We saw when we got the first case, it was our first one. So you kind of is a little anxiety laden,
Yeah.
So we lost, hundreds of hours hundreds and hundreds of hours of production because of shutdown, deep cleaning, extra day to be careful. Well, guess what? Shipments were down.
Right.
Guess what happens to, we also have profit sharing, by the way. So I think I did say we don't do like dividends and stuff, but we had a profit sharing program that keeps everybody in tune also. So profits were down. So by the way, and if profits are down, that means EBITDA is going to look worse and the share price. So everybody's, they're putting on their mask and they're saying, anybody better not catch it. Now, if you and I were the principals in the business and we garnered most of the upside or downside of the business valuation or profits, and then let's say you had a lathe operator that was there for 2 years, he can get a job pretty readily, let's say in the area, right? He's going to be like, I don't want to wear a mask.
Right.
And they'll be like, I don't care, And it's like, why? Because he can get a job somewhere else. He's got no equity in the company, But now this guy or girl has, 2 years.
You got to be fair. This person.
That's right. This person, they're looking at their share price and they want to, so they're like, put your mask on.
Yep.
Everybody. So it's kind of cool. It's like, at first it seemed like me, but saying it, and it was in large part. Somebody's got to lead the effort, right?
Right.
But ultimately, it does translate or transition to peer-to-peer protection of your overall wealth.
I think that, to me, that's the coolest thing about looking at the ESOP is everybody being in it together. Nobody's got a leg up on somebody else. The success is being passed down to everybody. I think a lot of time businesses get a bad rap, right, for being the man. You're going to get all these tax incentives and you're not going to pass them on to your employees and you're just going to keep it for yourself. And I think business has gotten a bad rap from bad owners in the past,
Right.
And I think that, just like anything else, I think to me, that's in the minority. I think most businesses are run morally and fairly, and they do care about their employees and they do want the best for them. But then you get those people that run things in a shoddy way, and
that's right.
They ruin it for everybody.
They really do. I mean, yeah, it's true. Hey, here's an interesting point. You as a principal, say at Alliance, say you converted your business to an ESOP, right?
Yeah.
A company's value by another company, a prospective suitor will value your company at a multiple of your EBITDA.
Okay.
So let's just say they're going to value you at anywhere between 5 times EBITDA and 10 times EBITDA on the best side, right? So let's call it 7 times. 7 times EBITDA. Imagine you convert to an ESOP as a principal yourself. You sell the company, but by the way, you're still with the company.
Okay.
You're still running the company because you got to stay with the company because I say you got to, I mean, you should stay with the company, right? You probably took back debt. Also, you probably hold some of the notes, but the whole point is you're still working for the company. Now, if everybody's getting shares, and let's just say everybody works just overnight works 10% faster.
Mm-hmm.
That 10% drops directly right down to net and EBITDA and stuff like that. I mean, I say directly, more or less. If everybody just ran faster and you were making your net income would climb, 5%, 10% or something like that, you get a multiple of EBITDA, maybe 5-7 times that. The business valuation can go up quite a bit. So here you are, you think you're selling the company, right? You're garnering the sale of the company, but you're also still now involved in the company, and you're also the beneficiary of a well-running ESOP and any increase in share valuation and EBITDA and everything. So if your employees now really want to kick it up and they really, instead of worrying about just only, how much overtime am I going to get, they'll always worry about that. That pays the rent, and they should. But that's not the only thing they worry about anymore. They start worrying about share valuation. So if they think about productivity and everything, they are going to be working a lot harder to increase your EBITDA, which will make you a very productive and happy participant in that ESOP. So it's all win when you convert a company to an ESOP, really, for the most part. As long as you have a good business and you run it well still. You have to do all those.
Well, those are givens, right? If you don't
Right.
do that stuff, nobody even wants those. I don't want to own part of this. This is a nightmare.
Right. It's true.
So you always have that fear, I guess.
Right. I'm only mentioning that because I think principals often think that they're selling it, it's gone, the employees own it. I'm a CEO of an ESOP. I run it, like I said, it's just like it's a public company. You have an executive team, you have a board of directors, and you have a trustee. I mean,
Yeah.
you run it like a public company. I don't even know how else to say it more succinctly. And so it's kind of neat. You go from running a private company to running a public company.
I guess the danger would be is if you have everybody that's around the same age range and they're all going to retire around the same time.
Well, yeah.
That could be trouble, right? I mean,
well, that's trouble whether you're a private enterprise or you're an ESOP.
yeah.
Right?
I'm just saying as far as payouts go.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. You really have to be thinking about that and planning for that. Like we take some of our profit and we accrue in a banking account. We do a study like with actuarials, how long people live, when they're expected to retire, and we accrue funds to pay them out. So it never taps us in any one given year like a big surprise. Now that's a management decision. A lot of ESOPs will just pay as you go. And that's okay too. But to your point, imagine if you had a big group, say the company's doing great, you're not accruing any funds to like a pension fund for the lack of saying that too, right? You got to accrue funds to pay them out. Sooner or later, there's going to come a big hit if a big group of people retired, especially if the company's doing great and their shares are up. You're going to be all of a sudden like, oh, that money, you've got to pay all those people.
I mean, you get 5 people that retire in the same year and you're like, whoa, wow, where are we going to pay that? That's because there's a good chance that they've been with you for a long time too, right? Yeah. Because if they're at that retirement age, most people don't take a new job at, 60. I'm sure they do, but I think most people are, well invested in a company at that point. And that's, I would imagine that's the other side of running the business that way is keep people on board, keep people wanting to stay with the company, not look for new opportunities because they don't want to miss out on the money that they're helping to create.
Okay. I didn't point out one other fact on an ESOP that's really important to this discussion. Okay, let's say you and I are both working in an ESOP. I'm going to retire this year.
Yeah.
And I have immense skill, right? I'm like the best polisher you've ever had. And you could be like, Jeff, don't retire. It's terrible, right? Well, I said to you that the ESOP is going to pay me out at 20% a year for 5 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, guess what? That 20% floats with the share valuation floats.
Okay.
So if I retire, let's just say you and I were the only 2 people in the company. I retire. You're going to have a hard time making profit next year. And how are you going to pay me out 20% a year? And by the way, you won't have to worry about it because the company's value is going to be in half. My shares are going to get revalued next year. You're not going to have to pay me anything. Here's $20, Jeff, because you left. You messed up the company.
So they're not based on what the shares were when you left.
Right.
Okay.
It's very important. And I'll tell you why. Because watch, me and you are sitting here again, and I'm saying, Tony, I'm going to retire. And you're going to say to me, you'd better get your replacement pretty quick. You don't get paid out. And you damn well better train them pretty damn good, pretty damn quick.
Right,
so
right.
That's what that does. You know what skilled people do. It's my skill. I'm not training anybody. I'm leaving. You're going to miss me.
Yeah.
That's old school. New school is an ESOP. Get somebody in here so I can train them so I can get paid out my shares. I will teach them everything I know as quick as I can.
And if they're younger and they have my brain, they're going to be able to do more and our value is going to rise.
So people who are retiring have a strong incentive to pass on their skill set. Mm-hmm. That is very different than most companies. It's like, you ain't paying me, huh? I retire, I got my 401k. I'll see you later. December 31st is my last day. Goodbye. And that's it. That's the way most people work. And just in general, when comes to skilled labor force. There's basic, and I don't blame them. It sounds kind of coarse but it's not. It's just basically there's not much incentive. But in an ESOP there is. And so,
I think it's an interesting. I keep saying it's an interesting way to look at it. I listen to Gary Vaynerchuk sometimes. I don't know if you ever listen to Gary Vaynerchuk, and he's a serial entrepreneur. He's big on social media, and one of the questions that he gets asked all the time is, how do you get the most out of your employees? How do you get them to care as much as you do? And he said, give them part of your business.
pretty much.
You want them to care as much as you do about your business? Give them your business. But because to them, it's a job. They work, they put in hard work, but if they wanted to be owners of a company, they wanted that stress, they would start a company. There are some people that want to work from whatever time to whatever time and go home and not think about it anymore. And you can't expect everybody to have that entrepreneur mentality to be able to do that. But I think what you're talking about it bridges the gap between those two things.
It does. And remember I said wittingly or unwittingly, they earn the shares. I found that some people that want to go home, they want to work 8 hours. They're often tremendously skilled and they're adding value to the value creation.
100%.
High too. They might not seem like they care as much as some people who want to commit as much, but they're many of those people trying to strike some life balance.
Yeah, that's something I'm missing out on.
Seriously, right? You're better off, all of you as a group, creating life balance together and trying to kind of find that. There's, who the most public pontificator of the virtues of employee ownership has been just, I don't think it was a month back. Mark Cuban.
No. Okay.
Mark Cuban started, you know how Mark Cuban got rich?
Internet. No?
Yeah. He had started a company called broadcast.com.
Okay.
And then they sold to some big media company. I can't, like Viacom or something like that. Anyway, broadcast.com, I think there were 330 employees and over 300. He gave shares to all of them, the whole group of employees from early on. And well over 300 of the 330, if my numbers are off, you could Google it, but I'm certainly close enough. 300 or some odd. I mean, they were retired multimillionaires when the company was sold. 300 some odd of 330. Listen, that story is incredible. If you, and that's why Mark Cuban says, I think he's quoted as saying, now's the time, give your employees stock. You really, I think so. What's funny about stock though, is if you just give it and you don't explain how a company's run, gross profit, net income, even if you don't do that, market valuation, you got to do that slowly. And you really should have some active training for everybody, because everybody's going to get it. Your company is going to be worth more. And that's why he's such a believer in that, is because he realized how powerful of an engine is when everybody's looking at multiple of EBITDA valuation and everybody's pulling and rowing in the same direction. It's very powerful.
I'm going to have to look more into it. I mean, it's fascinating to me, just the whole idea of it. I mean, I'm definitely going to take a look at what that looks like and what that would look like in a bigger model and look at more examples of it. I mean, it seems like it's working for you guys.
It is. I think there's about 11,000 ESOPs in the country.
Okay.
I don't like quoting these numbers I read, but I don't always remember the exact detail, but it's up there pretty good.
So what you're good at is you give the round number. You didn't say there's 11,283.
There's 11,284.
Okay, sure. Whatever you say, man. I'm going to take your word for it. That's fine.
I should have these numbers, but I really wasn't trying to be a statistician.
No, it's fine. So are we going to see more of you at the AMBA events? I think that was one of the first ones first two I've seen you guys at.
Well,
California.
We'll go to them if they have them.
Yeah, well, there's that. We're having our golf outing September 25th. I consider that an AMBA event.
You are? Oh, you're talking about for Alliance.
Yeah, we're having it's a Alliance iWarriors golf outing. So all the mold makers will be out there. Um, we're raising money to give. So iWarriors provides iPads to combat wounded veterans.
Oh, okay.
And whether that's PTSD or mental or physical injury. And then those iPads are loaded with training materials and exercise things to stimulate the brain and do all the other stuff. So we've worked with iWarriors in the past, and it's been good. And this year we were going back and forth, and if we wanted to have the outing, and if it was a good idea or not, and all the people that I've talked to that are in this industry were like, we need something. We need a way to meet and talk and network and do all those things, because all the shows are closed and everything else. So, we're going to do it. What's the worst thing that happens? We get a small turnout.
Well, golf, I mean, most of all the golf courses are open, I thought, and that's
Yeah.
great. I mean, it's outside and you can get spacing. I mean, it's probably, if you're going to have a venue for raising money or just being outdoors in a COVID environment, I think that's all things being equal. That's a good one.
So we hope you and Crafts will be there.
Okay. When is it?
September 25th.
Okay.
In Prairie Isle Golf Course.
Did I get an invite? Did you send out invites?
I didn't send them out yet. It's coming out. Yeah. It's I was doing a slow launch because we just built a new website that has an online store, because we're starting to sell the things that we use here, whether it's polishing supplies or welding wire. We've always sold welding wire, but we just launched an online store that's going to allow us to do that better for our customers. And the testing phase of the online store was the golf outing, so that I can make sure that everything was working properly. So we got our first few orders coming in through that. So now I feel comfortable sending out links and invitations. So you'll get yours in the next day or so, I'm sure.
I will commit to. I don't know what September looks like. I haven't really been doing anything, to be really frank. But that I would consider. That's
good.
Good one.
Good. And yeah, well, we're hoping to have a full house as usual. And that's September 25th. You got anything coming up you want people to know about?
I don't think so.
No. Good.
No.
Just working. Just plugging along and working.
Yep. That's it.
I'm hoping we can get back to some sort of normalcy soon. I think, all the Zoom calls and everything else, I think, this is fun. This is fine. Serves a purpose, but it's just not the same.
No, it's not, especially since you got to keep looking right at the screen.
Yeah. Yeah.
I got ADD for sure.
It makes it difficult.
Really, my neck hurts to make sure I'm like paying attention.
Well, if I would have known that, I would have had other things going on behind me to get your attention, see where your eyes were going. But you've been good about this, man. I good for you.
All right. Well, I'm glad I was here. I think that's it's good. Anything that gets a message out on employer ownership, you already know how I feel about that. So
yeah,
I love the
and what I like about you is you're a positive guy too, right? You're an optimist like I am. I feel like there's no real reason to talk about the negative stuff. Everybody already knows that. Right.
Oh, that gets all the headlines. I can Google anything negative. It's hard to find something positive.
Yeah. So when we first started doing this show, Hillary Coombs and I, the whole idea was we are bombarded with so much noise and negativity around us, trying to pull our attention and rile us up for things that you don't even need to be riled up about. Let's put something out there that is strictly positive. We can talk about issues that we're having, but let's talk about them in an optimistic way of finding solutions and how we're dealing with situations that are happening around our lives, not just bitching and moaning about it.
Yeah. You want an optimistic thought? Here's an interesting optimistic thought. I just read this in the Wall Street Journal too. Do you know that in 2008, 2009 crisis, that the savings rate in the United States was 5% or under? Do you know that it is nearly 2 to 3 times that now?
Really?
Yeah. So what's interesting about that is I'm not sure everybody follows this logic, but that the stock market has been priced high, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, there's the belief, forward thinking, that when this gets unleashed to go back, let's call it back to normal, whatever that looks like.
Sure.
there's a lot of pent up demand to do stuff. And, people with the savings rate high, a lot of the value appreciation is really extraordinary right now.
Right.
And so think about that. Imagine a vaccine or if people just don't care anymore. I mean, let's
I
just
think
say
that's closer, to be honest with you.
I feel it's one way or another, something's going to happen. Either people aren't going to care anymore and they're going to throw their masks away,
Yeah.
or they're going to get a vaccine. Something's going to happen where people are just going to something's going to happen. But the whole point is that there's an extraordinary future for everybody if they just hang on tight a little bit, the way things are going to go. I think there's tremendous opportunities coming up.
I agree with you.
8, 9, 12 months. I don't know, something, but there's a lot of opportunity.
And I would agree with you 100%. And, just talking with people I know, friends of ours, they tell me we're in the same boat, right? Like we used to go out to dinner more. We used to do more things. We used to do these. We've saved so much money.
Yeah.
Like just on gas, on everything. We've saved so much money. And in the process, you're working on projects at the house. So like you said, the value of the house is going up, all these things, I think over the long haul, there's more. Now, this sounds awful when I say it out loud because there's people that have died, there's people that have been sick, but I truly feel over the long haul, when we look back at this, we're going to be in a more positive position than we were before COVID. Technologies have gotten better. People have adjusted the way that they've worked. They've made, I think, their employees' lives easier by allowing them to work from home and opened up communications, finding new ways to do things, saving money, spending more time with your family. Now, again, that's easy for me to say because we don't have an abusive family dynamic. I know it's not the same for other people, but I think so many people were begging for more time in their lives, and they got it, right? It wasn't what we hoped it would be. Yeah. But we got it. We got more time. We got the thing we wanted. It's just different than we hoped it would be.
Hey, listen, I'm just happy that the air's cleaner on an airplane.
Yeah.
And those rats that run these airlines, they better, I don't mean to be so hard on them, but I'm going to, on one topic, as I consider them rats, and that is the seat size.
Yeah.
Can you imagine flying international now and somebody's falling asleep on you now? People will be freaked out. So they're going to be forced to widen the seats. If the air is cleaner and I have a wider seat in steerage, I will be happy. I don't need the perfect seat, but this is not a good seat where I can't contort myself in there. You know what I mean? It should be
you and I are not big guys, right? When we're falling over our seats, there's an issue with the seat size.
Seriously. So,
but I'll tell you, you want to appreciate American flights, fly in Mexico. Oh my gosh, that's a nightmare.
Just size-wise seats?
The seats felt like they were made out of plywood. I mean, it was, I was not a fan. I was not a fan of flying around in Mexico. But
to your point, post-COVID, there's going to be some evolution of things, either family life, flying, just in general. I think it's actually, I mean, if you want to take stock, if everything has a pro and a con type column, there are some pros that should occur. And I feel bad too, but unfortunately for all of us, the cons, those of the pandemic have made all the media airwaves. So we all know the negatives. I don't think if we just keep rehashing that to be sensitive, I mean, I appreciate that from the notion of being sensitive, but there are some tremendous pros that are going to occur post-COVID, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. And you already see them. They're there, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, they're there, but they're very easy to look over and not pay attention to. But I don't have a media company,
That's right.
This is my media company, right? This is where we put out our positivity and talk about how we're going to make things better for people and what the world could look like in a kumbaya kind of a way. But
well, don't underestimate it because the world has become much more it's divested of these large media outlets and, small granular messages, whether you're reaching 5, 10, 50 people. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the way the world's moving, local
Yeah.
and granular. It is.
One person at a time. It's how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. How do you bring positivity? One message at a time. That's all you can do.
That's
So,
it.
our half-hour show went to an hour and 5 minutes. So I'm sorry for taking up so much of your day. But I'm not really sorry because it was good
No, you're
conversation.
not.
I mean, this is the longest conversation we've ever had, which is sad.
Well, we've had a pandemic for 6, 7 months, so
Yeah.
that's partly our excuse. I think I
Yeah.
mentioned at the SIG dinner, it wasn't that long before the pandemic. I don't think we really had that much of an opportunity to.
No, I think it was maybe 4 or 5 months beforehand.
Yeah, September-ish of last year or something, October, something like that.
And I got to tell you, that thing I had no idea what I was walking into. I really enjoyed it,
That was
but
your
I had
first
no idea. Yeah, that was my first one.
Okay, and that was my first one.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody appreciated that I wanted to hire all their employees. I thought that was the funniest thing, but that's me. I'm a little bit brash when it comes to, I think, just as maybe as a closing point, in a world where once people really, truly, truly get this multi-decade, multi-generational, and this equity discussion that we're talking about, it's kind of like the birth of the 401ks, post the pension raiders, back in the 70s and 80s, and then you had the development of 401ks and IRAs. The next evolution truly is equity in this way. And I will tell you, again, multi-decades from here, multi-generational periods from here, the world, I would say in the United States, will probably lead the way, will be an equity-based game. It's employees. Mark my words, if you want to call me Nostradamus in 20 years from now, you will see that there will be tax incentives for, let's say, Alliance. They would say to you, we'll treat your your capital gains tax favorably if 10% of your company is owned by your employees. Like, you know what I mean? They'll do something. They'll design taxation to encourage you and everybody else to give some measure of your equity to your employees as compensation. That will be, I believe, the standard MO of companies in the United States in some decades here to come.
I think that sounds cool.
Especially if I have anything to do with it.
So now you're going to be a politician.
Yeah, I think I would like to help drive politics that way. It's basically, if I was to really be frank, it's basically taxation. Just treat capital gains and income taxes and things like that, corporate income taxes as, treat them favorably when you give equity to your employees. There, I just wrote the tax law. It's that simple.
Yeah, but you gotta take that and put it onto 40 pages.
Yeah,
a lot of words that nobody wants to hear or read or even think of.
I'm the idea man. I just come up with the idea. That's a lot of typing for me.
Yeah, I know. Me too. So usually we close our show with a prayer. Do you have anything you want us to pray for?
Equitable distribution of equity.
There you go.
Equities for people. I'm religious about that, actually. So.
Yeah. All right, Heavenly Father, thank you for this time with Jeff and his passion for his team and for all employees and the fair distribution of equity in our country. We pray that you would give all the leaders and all the businesses discernment and wisdom to the way that they run their business, and that they would do it in a way that brings you glory and reflects who you are on other people, and that as leaders we could be a light to those around us and just do the best we can. And we ask that you would keep us safe, that you would keep providing for us, that you would bring wisdom to the leaders of our country and our nation, and that we would make it through this season smarter, better, stronger, and better able to serve. We love you, and it's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Well, amen.
Jeff.
Excellent message.
Thanks, buddy.
All right.
I appreciated being able to talk to you today. It was good. Hopefully we can do this again sometime. More face to face. I'm going to send you that golf outing information. Is there somewhere that people can go to get more information on ESOPs,
Yeah, there's one.
or just Google?
But if you Googled ESOP, basically you get the 3 or 4 main ones that come up with the Google hits would be things like NCEO, National Center for Employee Ownership. Like that, you'll get them. That's impossible. ESOP, they'll get the best
Sure.
results. And there are a couple of associations that this is what they do, or they could always call me.
I'm on I'm the chair for the Society of Plastics Engineers Mold Technology Division, and I may reach out to you to help us write an article to put in our newsletter to get some of this information out to people. I think it would be fascinating for people to look at.
It's very timely in that, and by the way, a lot of principals in the SPE that own these companies, it's not that easy to sell those businesses either, or to get a fair valuation on them. If they're, they could be like a $4 million business or a $7 million business, and it's a good way to get a great valuation and have continuity in the business, share equity. There's a huge win. So the age of a lot of those owners is timely in that respect. There's a lot of baby boomers that are going to be retiring, and the disposition of those businesses. I mean, this is an excellent time to consider it for a lot of those people. Yeah.
Well, if you're interested in helping me put together some sort of an article,
Definitely.
we'll get that out there.
All
right, buddy. Thank you for your time. We'll chat soon.
All right, Tony. Thank you for having me too. I really appreciate it. Great talking to you.
All right, Jeff. Thanks.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right, everybody. Thank you for watching the Manufacturing Alliance Chat and Chow. That was Jeffery Taylor from Crafts Technologies. And I just love that guy and his passion for what he's doing, and especially for, his team. And I think all the stuff he's talking about being an employee-owned company seems interesting. I don't know that much about it. I'm going to look into it a little bit more. I'm not saying we're going to do it absolutely, but I think there's always options, and I think it's always good to look at things. So if you'd like more information, I can get you Jeff's information, and we can go from there. In the meantime, thank you for listening. Thank you for giving me some time and watching, and I hope you found it interesting. Until next time, take care and God bless.